The recent rise of films and TV shows from the Korean peninsula has gained a lot of attention from critics and fans alike, and it looks like the Hallyu wave isn't washing away anytime soon. Dubbed the new Hollywood, South Korean cinema is being praised for its refreshingly original and genre-bending content. But what is it they're doing that has made their productions so very successful? Keep watching this video to learn more. First off, let's be real, Hollywood is getting boring now. It's true though. Name one thing Hollywood has produced in the last few years that has exceeded expectations and wasn't just the same old plot wrapped in quirky camera tricks. Something that genuinely amazed you to the point that you made a mental note to watch it all over again. Can't think of any, right? Exactly. There isn't anything on air right now that one can really praise for being an entertaining watch. The era of sitcoms is unfortunately over, and now poorly made book adaptations have taken over our screens. Long gone are the days when Hollywood produced movies that were of substance and had acting that wasn't one-dimensional. Even with poor quality cameras, the dialogue delivery and the scripts of the past films were enough to ignore the chunky cinematography. Recently, it feels like all tropes have been used, and there's nothing out there that genuinely feels fresh. Perhaps that's why more people are migrating to South Korean cinema. Watching a movie produced by thoughtful creators is an incredibly rewarding experience, and no matter how long a film or an episode is, there's nothing that hinders your focus while watching. Unlike recent Hollywood productions that are better suited to be played in the background while you scroll through TikTok. The film industry in the US banks on nostalgia these days. By releasing movies based on previous franchises and relying on the emotions they evoke, millions of dollars are still being made. But when you talk about impact, it's basically non-existent. Let's talk about how refreshingly original and genre-bending South Korea cinema is. Even if you're just a newbie getting into the world of aesthetically pleasing K-dramas, you'll agree that South Korean shows are extremely well written and emotionally captivating. What's interesting about their approach to cinema is the way writers blend two different genres together in their writing and still make it work. Melodrama is a big influence on many Korean productions. Most films and shows follow whimsical themes, and many renowned actors are known for their roles in heart-wrenching tragedies. Take the K-drama 2521 for example. In 2022, it graced the screens of Netflix users, and with its trailers, it looked pretty much like a coming-of-age romance. And during the first half of the show, everything seemed like it was just a regular slice-of-life drama, with comic relief in between. But how wrong we were to think that we'd get our happy ending. Well, we did fully break down at the end of the finale. We still look back fondly at the show for its wonderful storytelling and nuanced characters. Every time you watch a work by a South Korean writer, director, or producer, you can almost feel the effort they've put in to make the show. They spend so much time creating their characters and working on them that they don't just feel fictional anymore. You become so emotionally invested in their growth that you can't help but find yourself rooting for them by the time the show ends. Let's learn more about South Korean horror films. Horror films are the go-to pick for movie nights, but lately, Hollywood has been producing such bland films in that genre that we can't bring ourselves to even watch the trailers anymore. If you're a fan of the genre, then we'll have you know that South Korea produces some of the scariest horror films of all time. And no, they don't involve a certain doll that's apparently supposed to be super scary. Their horror films usually involve several plot twists and have got plenty of gory elements that are not for the faint-hearted. Train to Busan is a perfect example of this. The film follows a zombie outbreak, but it's not just a linear story about zombies freaking everyone out and people running away from them. In fact, the zombies are depicted as power-hungry, ferocious, and deathly subjects that are utterly terrifying. And it's important to realize that Train to Busan is not just a zombie movie, it's a social commentary that is as subtle as a brick to the face. See what we mean about genre bending? Even in the most intense situations, you'll find the main lead cracking jokes here and there, which makes their inevitable death that much harder to bear. And this is all done on purpose. A theme that writers often echo in their work in South Korea is realism. They don't just try to make a movie destined for cinema, they draw inspiration from regular day-to-day life and then make a cinematic masterpiece out of it, following up with how it all started from Parasite. The reason why Parasite gained fame and a string of Oscars was because of how Bong Joon-ho was able to take a metaphor and turn it into a critical analysis of the power dynamics between two families. A prominent scene that we remember is of the time when it rained in the movie, and while the rich family was grateful for the downpour, the paupers of the film had to scurry around in their basement of a home to salvage anything they could from the parasitic waters. It was a painful reminder of the unfair distribution of wealth and the class system that exists today that are the reason there are people on either side of the poverty line. A lot of people had to reflect after watching Parasite, and we can't think of one single work from Hollywood that encouraged people to rethink their belief system the way it had. A different angle to analyze here would be the title of the film. While undoubtedly it's highlighted the class struggle of the people, you can't help but notice how the Kim family is in a parasitic relationship with the Park family, slowly leeching off their success to the point where Ki-taek kills his host Dong-ik. Throughout the film, Dong-ik comments on a smell coming from Ki-taek, and while you might brush it off as something that's crucial for the character, it's actually symbolic because it's a symptom of his poverty. Not to mention the Squid Game fever. Well, it's always a challenge to dip your feet into new waters and expose yourself to another facet of films. We really think everyone should be getting into South Korean cinema to see for themselves what they're missing out on. And if subtitles are an excuse up your sleeve, then the director of Parasite has said it best himself. Once you overcome the 1-inch tall barrier of subtitles, you will be introduced to so many more amazing films. Squid Game didn't gain fame because it was a survival show. In fact, the reason people were fully invested in it was that each character had something on the line that they were desperate for. It wasn't about who would end up with the prize, it was more about the choices they made to get it. The show was also a reflection of the power dynamics between the wealthy and the poor. The VIPs, cushioned by their riches, had front row seats to the grueling missions the contestants had to do in order to get one step closer to the billion-dollar prize. And the deaths of the contestants were a reminder that not everyone in life can succeed. Lastly, here are some notable works from South Korea to get you started. Didn't think we'd end this video here without dropping our recommendations, did you? Korean directors are often called the masters of suspense because of the way they weave so much tension in their work that's almost palpable. And as South Korean cinema has gained traction internationally, services like Netflix, Disney Plus, and even Apple TV Plus are hurrying to buy exclusive distribution rights because of the demand for these shows and movies. Now, well, we're sure what kind of movies you like, so we're gonna drop down some recommendations here so that you're all sorted for movie night next time. If you're a fan of Saving Private Ryan, then you probably want to watch Taegukji, which is its humble Korean equivalent. But spoiler alert, if you think Matt Damon made you shed a tear or two, then this one is probably going to make you bawl. But if you're not in the mood to cry and just want a lighthearted rom-com to distract you, then My Sassy Girl is the perfect watch to unwind to. And yeah, we know there's a US remake, and we'd rather not acknowledge that ever. The Handmaiden is another psychological thriller that is a must-watch if you're just getting into South Korean films. It's one of the most open and erotic works by Park Chang-wook, and even though it's inspired by Fingersmith by Sarah Waters, it's still way up high on our list of the greatest movies of all time, and you absolutely have to check it out. That's a wrap on this video. What do you think about South Korean cinema? Do you have any favorites? Let us know in the comments down below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Until then, see you in the next video.